Right, welcome back to SA Today here on SABC News. Well, horse racing, local talent, parties, fashion, family fun, fabulous food and drinks. What more could you ask for from a day out with friends and family? The Gauteng Summer Cup, Joburg's oldest and largest race day, which has been running since 1897. It has seen something of a revolution over the past 3 years as the city's influencers, partygoers, fashionistas, celebs and more have come together to turn the historical race day on its head. We're now joined in the studio by Avela Khuluse, social pioneer manager at Campbell and Campbell, and owner Angus Campbell. Thank you so very much for joining us here on SABC.
Thanks for having us.
Well, as a start, let me come to you, Angus. I mean, tell us about the Summer Cup and what it's so different from this horse racing event to other horse racing events. I think we've seen in the past it's become a sort of social and eventful sort of day. But what makes the Gauteng Summer Cup so special?
I think there's two things that differentiate it from the other big race days. Number one, the other race days don't allow people under 18. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we opened it up to all ages, and we made it a family day. And one of the directors at Formula said, let's make it the people's race. So it really is the people's race. I think that's the first thing. Yeah. And then the second thing is it is literally built by the people of Gauteng. So it's a different model to the other big race days. So our model, and this is where Avela comes in, is how do we empower people in Gauteng to start or build their event businesses at the Gauteng Summer Cup.
Now, you talk about people developing their event businesses, but I really do want to dwell more on this, the people's race. How did you decide that this is where you were going with this race? People always say you don't mix children with animals. Yeah. And now you've done both, which is quite scary now, isn't it?
Yeah. I think from the family perspective, the children thing, it was a lot of people were coming to our race days and they were like, well, we're not going to leave our kids behind. Yeah. So why don't we just get with the program and let's just build an event that caters for the family. So that was the first thing. And then once that started to happen, it just kind of grew from there. So we changed some of the logistics. So we don't have these late all-night after parties in public areas. We have those in private areas. And everything's about the safety of the family and entertainment for the family as well.
All right, now Avela, let's talk about the business side of it all. We just had a young entrepreneur here, and I understand that the Gauteng Summer Cup does sort of want to help small businesses. I mean, in the past, you couldn't just get a marquee at a horse racing event. It was for the exclusive, for people with a lot of money. Now you've found a way to change that. Talk to us about that, and what was the thinking really behind that?
Well, I think the concept basically came from Angus. Like you're right, basically, so people who host at your horse racing events are established businesses. You find mostly corporate, you find mostly guys who run companies in the event management space who have the financial strength to actually put up and host an entire area. With the Gauteng Summer Cup, Angus then came up with the concept of, instead of using a marketing budget taking the marketing budget and putting it into billboards and just the marketing aspect of thing where everybody knows about the event, he took that amount and decided to put it and plug it into up and coming entrepreneurial event managers in the event management space. So I then obviously fell into that when I joined the company, and that I'm more passionate about grooming people and empowerment, especially if you're starting out on your own. It's hard. So what we've done with the Gauteng Summer Cup is that instead of you having like 100,000, for example, to put up a space, we've now realized that you need a stepping stone. You need a starter pack. Yes. So that's what we offer. We offer a starter pack so that you kind of you've got your foot in already, and you don't have to worry about all the other extra costs because it takes a lot. Decor, catering, flooring, which are all expensive things. So that's the concept of where we actually enable you to kickstart yourself and also just also take you through the entire process and work with you throughout.
One would ask, with the Gauteng Summer Cup, why would you want to do this in terms of the fact that you could get your big corporates who are willing to pay, you know, 100,000, 200,000 per marquee.
Yeah.
But here you are talking to the small guys.
Yeah.
You know, one would ask, well, you know, what do you get out of that? You know, as a business, you know, at the end of the day, if you're in business, you're in it for, you know, for money, to make money and all of that. But why did you go this route?
I think if we're honest, the race, because the race used to sort of copy the model of the other big race days, it didn't differentiate itself in any way. And the big corporates weren't that interested. They're like, well, we already have the other big race days normally at the coast. And they weren't buying into it. So we had to differentiate. And what was happening was a lot of these young event organizers were coming to our office and they were saying, we've got an amazing following, we run these amazing events, we can do all these cool things, we need some space. I'd say, cool, take the space, do whatever you want, and then they would still sit in the meeting. I'm like, why are you still sitting here? And they would all say the same thing. They would say, well, we haven't got any money. So I was like, well, we're doing all these advertising campaigns and we're not seeing many results. What if we take some of that money and help these guys? So we don't give anything away for free. So every single group who comes on board, they have to buy a certain number of tickets. It's like VCT's where he talks about the egg factory. You come and ask him for money for an egg factory, he says go and buy some eggs. So we do the same thing. We'll give you the basics and you still have to go and sell those tickets, and you've got a market, and we have one criteria: you have to fill up your space. So that's how it started, and that then differentiated us because the model was different. So now you actually have 15, 20 young event organizers all building their own event under our umbrella. So that means you've got a lot more people coming together to run this thing. And then there was another thing that we did was these big after parties on these big stages weren't very well attended, so we introduced something called a halftime show. And again, what we did there was we were like, well, instead of paying 5 very expensive performers, why don't we pay 400 up-and-coming performers? So that's another thing we did. So suddenly it did 2 things. One, you had this amazing show, and 2, suddenly you had 400 people plus their supporters coming to the race day. All part of the people's race. So slowly but surely that all...
So you really are the people's race. Just, you know, there has been, and I suppose this question is for both of you, you know, being in this horse racing event and everything, you know, there has been some criticism against those attending horse racing events, that it's stopped being about the horses and stopped being about the horse racing, and it's now, you know, about fashion and, you know, who's seen with who and all that kind of a thing. What do you say to that kind of criticism that's leveled against horse racing events? And this is just a sort of general question about horse racing events.
So I'll quickly help Avela there, because that's a very valid point. So for example, you can go to some other big race days, you can be 3 or 4 tents away from the action. So far, for the last 4 years, we've managed to keep all our tents on the racetrack.
Good.
Okay. I must say we are now starting to squeeze that a little bit. There's some pictures behind you, but our thing is all about making the horse and the race the key thing. The fashion and the celebs and the music, that's all cool, but you're at a horse race, and we try and educate people about horse racing. It's a very, very old sport. It creates a lot of jobs, a lot of opportunity. So I don't know how you're doing with your social pioneers, getting them...
Look, I mean, you're right. That's the notion that people host hospitality areas, and the people who come in there are just there for a big party. But I think with the Gauteng Summer Cup right now, compared to other horse racing events, is, I mean, if you kind of see in the pictures that the track is right in the middle of all the hospitality areas, so people get to really experience the actual horses running on that field. It's so close. You're so close to the actual track, and that's how we've built the model of where the hospitality areas are placed. I mean, we haven't really reached the point where everybody's really interested in betting and focus on horse racing, but I think we've tried our hardest to. Obviously, you've got your betting facilities inside, your betting totes inside each and every marquee, but I think the fact that we've got the track right there, people are more engaged in the actual horse racing. And the other thing that people don't know is that there's money in horse racing.
I think I know that.
All right. There's money in horse racing. So we really do urge for people to really do bet on the day, because what we've also experienced is that when people did bet who attended the event last year, you found people winning money and they were excited. So we want more people to also get involved in betting and, you know, make it a little.
Hopefully you'll tell me which is the strongest horse this year, so that I can get it right. Okay, well, thank you so very much for joining us, Angus and Avela. I appreciate you coming to SABC to come and chat to us, and no doubt many of us here would like to go there. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, that's it it from me, Flo Ladwaba, and the rest of the team here on SA Today. Enjoy what's left of your Saturday afternoon. Take care. Cheers.